All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Fit Over 40. I'm your host, Coach Clarence. And in the studio today, I have Jonathan Niziol. And he is a guy who does what I used to do, but looks like he's doing it on a grander scale. He's got a great story. He's a real estate investor, he's a model, he's a trainer. Um, as you guys know, I'm a loan officer. I have a lot of clients who do real estate investment and clients who get coached online. So I thought this would be a great conversation to add to the mix. So, Jonathan, go ahead and tell everybody who you are and how you got here.
First of all, I just want to give you say thank you very much for having me, Coach. I appreciate it. I am originally from Canada. I'm coming to you from Texas, like I mentioned before. I'm a former professional lacrosse player. I think you mentioned pretty well in my resume. Pretty much nailed it. I am just a guy who's been through some stuff and am here to talk about it. Life happens, and I've come to terms with that. And I'm at a place where I've overcome the feelings of shame and learned that vulnerability is power and not shame. And yeah, just like having great conversations with people like yourself, and hopefully helping myself continue to grow and heal. And if I can reach somebody else or whatever, then that's amazing.
So, what I've found, interviews tons of coaches like yourself, is usually these people come from a place of trauma or they've had some unfortunate incident happen and they become the best coach because they've lived it. Why don't you share a story, something that really was a turning point in your fitness in your life? I noticed you had mentioned you were at 265. I used to bodybuild at 280, so but that was like a choice to be that big.
Yeah, I was not. Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was on the McDonald's and the alcohol diet.
I
I was
understand.
not
Believe me.
choosing to.
So tell us about that. And what was the turning point? Was it a doctor or did you just like for me, just real quick, and I'll let you go. I just got tired of wearing clothes that were too big, bending over, being out of breath. I'm like, I'm getting too old. So what was your turning point?
Well, I was an alcoholic. I was a non-functioning alcoholic, and my mom passed away the day before my 21st birthday, very suddenly and very unexpectedly. And she and I were extremely close, and that had a profound effect on me, and I didn't really know how to deal with it. I started to deal with mental health issues and stuff like that, and this is 21-ish, yeah, 21 years ago. So it wasn't talked about as much then as it is now. So I just figured, I mean, things seem to go away, 15, 20, 25 beers at a time. So I'll just keep doing that. And, that just one thing piles onto the other, and the lifestyle, the late nights, the bad food and all that kind of stuff, the messing up relationships and stuff like that. So yeah, I got up to that. I knew I was an alcoholic. I knew I couldn't quit. I have extreme respect for people who go into rehab and go into, those kinds of programs, because I didn't have the strength to do that. What it was for me was I had a very bad case of acute pancreatitis, and it was brought on by drinking. And I was in the hospital for just under a month. I had to have 5 blood transfusions. I lost 40 pounds in the first 2 weeks, 60 pounds in total. I almost died twice, and that was my wake up call. I mean, I was 25 years old at the time, and I'm sitting there facing my own mortality. And you're 25, you think, I can do whatever. And that was the thing. I came out of that, and I knew I could never drink again, and been sober from alcohol for almost 17 years. But I really started to want to learn and know more about the body, and not just the exterior. I wanted to know interior, and how it functions and why it does it do certain things. And like, when next time I go to Subway, before, I'd get a meatball with triple cheese and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, maybe I'll get a turkey sub. And, back in those days too, like the internet was kind of in its infancy. I was just, picking up Muscle and Fitness and, those kinds of things, and just reading and subscribing to and all that kind of stuff, trying to just take in as much as possible. Also seeing the changes, and how much better my body felt as I treated it, nicer, and how much it gave back to me as I treated it better. So it was kind of and I'm so thankful for it. I needed it to be that serious for me to get the message, because I wouldn't, like I said, I otherwise there were tons of messages happening around me, like ruining, friendships and being, just all these things. But I needed it to be that serious. And that was the big turning point. And I've always had a big passion for fitness. I'm a big believer you can never stop learning. Like nobody knows it all. And, the moment you think you know it all is, those are the coaches that get left in the dust. It's like there's always something new to learn, something like so I became a student of fitness and health in my body and food and that kind of thing. And yeah, it really set me on the course.
Mhm. What are some of the things you're seeing in your practice in terms of the type of clients that you're seeing? What are you seeing what they're dealing with?
I've uh, I've been training for 13 years, 14 years actually, and the thing I love about training is, even though I'm a former professional athlete and I vary my own training depending on what I'm trying to do. Um, I've tried to change my body for modeling, and I found that I do things now that make me feel the most comfortable in my skin. I play hockey 4 times a week, so I don't want to carry a bunch of extra muscle. But the thing I love about personal training is the variety of clients. I've worked with pregnant clients. I've worked with very elderly clients. I've trained athletes. I've trained housewives. I've trained stay-at-home dads. I've trained, I mean, you name it. Like I've done the whole thing, the whole gamut, like the whole thing. And I love the challenge of, I mean, everybody's fitness is as individual as our fingerprint, right? Like,
Sure.
if you're just, okay, here passing out, workouts and stuff like that, like people do it and, go ahead, do what you want, but that's not true coaching. That's not true fitness. To me, I think everybody's fitness is that individual. And I love working with, getting to know the client, figuring out what makes them tick. Maybe they're a former athlete, and even though they're in their 50s now, they're talking about their glory days in high school. And it's like, let's do some of the stuff you used to do when you were, on the basketball court and stuff like that. And they're like, oh, let's do some ladder drills, like get that agility going. It's like, oh, this is cool, man. This is like, what makes them go. And like, or even I had a very elderly client, and he was not very mobile, and his biggest fear was, what if I fall? How do I get up? Like I have to, and we just practiced getting up. Like I taught him, I would, for an hour each session, we would put him in different scenarios where, okay, you're on your stomach now, you've fallen. Now this is how you're going to do it. And taught him the proper form and ways in which to get himself up. And like I said, everything in between. And yeah, that's what I love. And solving the puzzles, really like, and I really have a passion for it and love to do that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's the best.
How'd you get into modeling?
So after I ended my lacrosse career with a career-ending knee injury, my mom was actually a model in the late 70s, early 80s.
Oh, very cool.
And so I'd heard about modeling and stuff from her and her stories and stuff like that. And I got healthy. I got sober, I got healthy, and I didn't have lacrosse to stay in shape for. And I thought, yeah, maybe I'll go see some of the better agencies in Toronto, and got some offers and started from there, and then started traveling the world. And yeah, just kind of, yeah. And I never thought, obviously, when I was an alcoholic, it was never even an option. But then I was like, okay, so I've made it through pancreatitis. I'm still alive. Let's see what this has to offer. So yeah.
Um, and you're in the real estate investing. How did you transition into that? That's kind of two different things, but they're very similar. And I talk about that a lot. There are a lot of disciplines that are similar.
Yeah, that was the COVID thing.
Okay.
That was COVID. And that was kind of out of necessity. I had a client who, my business partner, we haven't done much in the last year just because the market's a little bit weird, and like we've been focusing on our own things, but we had a good few years there. Um, my father's an architectural planner, architectural designer, and I worked for him as an architectural planner. And I grew up around building and all that kind of stuff in real estate. And I'd always wanted to do it for myself. It wasn't an option in Canada because it's just far too expensive. there's, you're buying a fixer upper in Toronto for $900,000. And that's just like,
Nice.
yeah, like that's a,
Fixer upper.
that's a fixer upper. Yeah. Yeah. So, and this, she's an older Texan lady. People say we are like the odd couple, like, but she's a wonderful person. We would talk a lot about her projects and stuff like that. And then COVID hit and she's like, hey, I'm going to go look at a house. And I was like, hey, I'd love to come, and I had mentioned, like, if you're going to look at something, I'd love to see your process and stuff like that. And we went, and it was a buyer who had a few too many, or a seller who had a few too many beers. And he said, look, I need to get this much out of it. And we said, okay, have you told anybody else this? And she's like, I'm going to buy this house. Do you want to go in on it with me? And I was like, okay, let's do it. So that's how it got started. And she handles the real estate side of it, and I would handle the general contracting, just making sure everybody's where they're supposed to be, that kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
some of the design part of it too. I'd, call on favors from my dad and send him the plans and be like, okay, this, and then that's the way his mind works. In a day, he'd kind of draft it up and be like, here you go, like send it back. So that's how I got into that. It was just kind of out of necessity, and the luck of COVID, and just kind of, life gives you COVID, you make lemonade or something like that.
Yeah, you do some real estate transactions.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of coaches that I have come on talk a lot about mindset. How involved are you in dealing with people's mind? Because if you've been training long as you have, you start to figure out it isn't sets and reps. I
Big
mean,
time.
obviously eating is important, but the brain behind the person putting the food in my mouth is mine. You could have the greatest trainer, the greatest diet, and still be coming up short. So how do you approach the mindset part of this business?
It's the majority, and I don't want to put a percentage on it, but it is a majority of what we do, right? Like you said, after you take your certification tests and you learn how to, like, put together all that kind of stuff, and you quickly realize that it's not the sets and reps. It's not like that kind of stuff. For most people, it is the mindset. And I approach it individually and try to really learn. I love meeting new people. I love having conversations like this. I really feel like it's an honor when somebody is open and will share themselves and what they've been through and that kind of stuff with them. And I have a lot of empathy and understanding for people that life happens. We all can't be motivated to go to the gym, and we can't have the schedule to go to the gym, and you know, and it's a lot cheaper to eat unhealthy. And I get that. Like I respect that fully. And not everybody has taken the time and made it our passion like we have, to learn nutrition and understand these things, or what is a calorie and all that kind of stuff. So I understand that. So I have a lot of empathy, and I love to I love the idea of, and it's not something I thought of. It's been around forever, but it's I love to coach and to lead people to the place where I then become obsolete. I want to put my knowledge on you and teach you the why in what in what you're doing, so you understand it better. So you get to a point one day where you're like, what, I think I got this. And I'm like, that's awesome. Like I mean, yeah, I'm losing, but I'm like, that's great. Now go out and like shine. Like that's what I love. Some people are lifetime clients, and they just need, and that's great too. That's great too. They have, a head full of knowledge about things that, I'm sure I don't know, like how to do taxes and stuff like that. But, and, but I love that part of it. And the why, because that was really what got me fired up, is learning inside out. Why am I feeling this way? Why is my body doing this? Why is my physique changing this way? And the good and the bad, and just understanding, and adapting also, and learning that, like, the things that we were doing 15 years ago for our bodies don't necessarily work anymore for, like, our bodies, you and I. Like our bodies change and are all constantly, like, getting older, and father time is, it doesn't, you can't, nobody can hide from it. So yeah, the mindset thing is massive. And I just and I also, but in a respectful and understanding way, it's letting them know that, yeah, we can come in here 3 times a week and put an hour in, but it's up to you what you do with the rest of your time. I can tell you. I mean, you can lead a horse to water, and and just I'm not going to drill sergeant you. I'm not going to like shame you or this, whatever. And I think you should live your life. I don't believe in cheat days. I don't think that you should, look at something and feel like you're doing something bad. Like enjoy your life. I mean, if you go to a nice restaurant, they have chocolate lava cake and that's your favorite, eat it, have fun and use those calories to go burn off. I mean, if you drive by McDonald's and you smell French fries, then maybe cruise by that. But just, letting them know, like introducing their own accountability and being like, hey, I'm starting to teach you this stuff and we're starting to like understand and grow together. Um, you know, yeah, we do 3 hours together in a week. It's the other however many hours are left in the week that are going to make the biggest difference. So that's up to you and helping them shift, hopefully.
So I had a mentor years ago and I asked him, what is the secret to being successful in anything, especially in fitness? And he says, you create solutions. If you can create solutions, you'll always have a purpose. And he's like, your clients, you might have a 20-year-old client right now whose goals are to look cute at the pool party. She's
Mm,
eventually going to get married and have a baby. Now those goals are going to change. And if you can't adapt and be knowledgeable enough to, move forward, then you're not going to succeed. And I'm like you, I have some clients that I've had for 25 years, man.
hmm
They don't train full time, but they check in. Hey, I'm dealing with this issue. Or they'll say, hey, this is what I've been working on. How did you fix it? Or, hey, I decided to be crazy and run a marathon. I'm like, okay,
hmm Yeah.
why? Okay, let's deal with it. And it's kind of the same thing, mindset for anything, be having a solution to people's problems. A lot of people I see that I'm talking to, and it doesn't matter how successful they are, it's that whole thing of you got to dig deep, in your consultations,
hmm
especially
Big
when
time.
you're dealing with, you know this. I'm sure you've had some clients who've had trauma, and that trauma is masked behind behavior patterns that you see. I know I'm not supposed to, trust me, we can talk about drinking. That's a whole podcast. But
hmm
a lot of times people hide behind alcohol. It could be
hmm
bad food choices, it could be bad relationship choices. Um, how comfortable are you diving into those issues? Or is there
Very.
where you just go, nah, that's you got to go get therapy, you know?
I always I lead with my mistakes or my faults. And people hear personal trainer model and they tense up and they're like, and then I pull out a picture of what I used to look like before. And then I say, I'm a recovering alcoholic. I'm a recovering drug addict. I had an eating disorder for 8 years. I like, trust me, I've made all of the mistakes. And then they start to relax a bit and they're like, okay, because, by nature, we just judge a book by its cover and think, oh, that guy's never seen a hard day in his life. He probably came out of the womb with abs from here to there. Like, so I know, like, but there's also a line in which you should talk to a medical health professional, a mental health professional. Like there is absolutely that line. Just like you should talk to a medical professional before you start working out. If there's if we're working with a client who, might be in danger, high blood pressure, that kind of stuff, it's like go get clearance first before you do. But again, I'm very open with what I've been through, and like you said, the discovery period of it, and I don't. It's the
Huge.
initial consultation is for sure important, but it's constantly learning and listening to your clients, like you said. It's like, yeah, I've known you for 15 years, and when you came to me, you were like you said, you were 25 and you wanted to look great to go to Cancun on spring break or
Right.
whatever. And now like you said, you've run a marathon, so we trained you for that, and now you're a mom having your second baby, and like we're going to train you through pregnancy, and then okay, we're going to bounce back and really understanding. And I see a lot of personal trainers, and again, I'm not one to cast judgments or whatever. I mean, everybody can do what they want, but a lot of trainers train people the way that they work out and
Right.
towards their goals.
Absolutely. Yep.
It's like, okay, we're going to do 8 sets, or sorry, 8 reps, 3 sets. I'm like, this is a 72-year-old woman who just wants to feel good and play with her grandkids.
Yeah.
Like,
Get off the
why
floor.
are we pinning her on a bench? Like, but hey, I mean, that's their prerogative, whatever. But yeah, it's just like you said, it's constantly evolving, it's constantly listening. And like I said, I'm very open in understanding and the way I talk about form is like, I only know these things because I've studied them. Yes, but I've made the mistakes. I've got arthritis in my shoulder. I've cricked my neck where I couldn't move it for a week because I was doing something I shouldn't have been. And like,
Yeah.
like I've made a ton of mistakes, and I would love to avoid you making those same mistakes and learning from what I already have. So I'm very quick to try and lower that veil and to just I'm just a regular dude doing regular dude things, and this just happens to be somewhere that I've really put a lot of my passion and energy and my life and lifestyle towards. And yeah, I'm very, very happy to help people on their path and their journey.
So somebody's watching this or, listening to it. Who is your perfect avatar client? If you could train anybody famous right now that maybe you watch and go, man, if I had 6 weeks with this guy or gal, who is there anybody like that? Like an ideal avatar for you?
I would, if for me as a trainer, I don't have anybody in specifically because, like I said, you put anybody in front of me and I'm super excited and I'm ready to go. I'd be very interested to work out with some of the larger names like the David Goggins kind of thing. And like for my own mindset and my own mentality, it'd be interesting to, walk a week in his shoes. I'm sure it'd be
Well,
torture.
he has a program that you can do that.
Yeah, yeah,
Like the guys who talk shit to him, excuse me, on
yeah,
his comments, he challenges me. He says, "All right, come on, let's do it." Or they say, "Oh, you can't do that." I've seen the videos. It's
yeah.
like
Oh
obviously
yeah,
the guy's got to a point. I mean, but that's an extreme, the
for
guy
sure,
a lot of stuff that the average person can't do.
for
So
sure.
yeah. Well,
No,
what do
there's
you
so many
think of
different facets of fitness, and I've
sure.
never learned Olympic lifting. It'd be great to sit down with somebody who's, does that and to learn it the right. I never learned it because I've never had anybody who would teach me the right way, and I don't want to even try start. Like, I don't even want to mess around with it until I can have something, and that maybe will happen somewhere down the road. And
So
anybody
that
who's
might be a
really gotten to
client.
the top of their game.
Okay, so that might be a client who says, "Hey, I want to get into the Olympics, do Olympic living." You probably say, "Well, let me refer you out to somebody
Yeah.
that might be better at that." Yeah.
Yeah, I would. And that's the thing too, is knowing I would never put myself or a client in a situation where they could hurt themselves.
Sure.
I know what I do and I can't do and what I am knowledgeable in and I'm not. And I have no problem saying, hey, look, I've got a buddy who he's been powerlifting for that many, like let me put you with this guy. Absolutely. And the same thing goes for him. He'd be like, okay, this is my buddy. He's, former professional lacrosse player, plays hockey 4 times a week. You're an athlete. Go talk to him. So I'm very happy to do that and to check the ego. I would never be like, oh, okay, I could figure it out. So I think this is called a clean and press or something, or I don't know,
You
just
make
get
it
it
a
from here
gym
to
fail.
there. Like, yeah, I don't know, just dislocate your elbow or your shoulders or something. I don't know, like, yeah,
And that's again another thing you learn when you're younger, hopefully, that everybody isn't the right client for me. I can't train
yeah,
everybody. I think we all start that way, like, oh, I know everything and it's all the
yes,
same. And then you go, no, it's not. It's completely different.
yes,
And why do I want to do this? Like you said, put Miss Jones on the bench. You don't have to bring the bar all the way down. Maybe your shoulders can't handle that. Whatever the
yes.
case may be. You know, it's just interesting how the industry has changed. Now, do you have a studio where people go to you, or are you strictly online?
So for the last couple of years, I've been doing online. I kind of transitioned to online. I love in-person training. I'm actually kind of getting the itch
Really?
um, to go back to some in-person, just uh, maybe 4 or 5 clients, just see them, 2, 3 times a week. But I've also realized that I can be more places at once online.
Sure.
And that's the biggest thing. And working with clients that I know that um, yeah, I can help on their journey and be effective online and not just pump out like here for 25.99, let me get you ripped and ready for the beach. And, here's my, that kind of thing. So I've, transitioned a bit because like I said, I'm focusing on other things as well, but I still have the passion for fitness and I'm, but I'm getting that itch where I do miss the one-on-one. I actually was at the doctor yesterday, and he knew me from the gym. I didn't know him. He'd seen me, and I hadn't recognized him, and I was very honored that he had recognized me and stuff. And he's like, "Yeah, I always see you." Like, he's like, "Are you still a trainer at the gym?" Which I used to be a trainer at the Lifetime here when I first moved here. But I was like, no, I'm not. He's like, oh, I always see you helping people. I'm like, yeah, I'm happy to help my friends and to help people and just, kind of lending. I'm not walking around saying, you should do this, you should do that. Like by all means, I'm just keep to myself if somebody asks me a question. And he's like, yeah, I was always curious to talk to you and I didn't want to bother you. I'm like, man, let's work out together. Next time I see you, let's work out. Like just as workout buddies. I'm happy to spend some time. I would never, and also that I would never go into a gym and having been in that situation, I would never train in a facility where it wasn't, legit to do that. I don't.
It's so funny you say that because I mean, for years of being in the gym and I see people and it's like you're doing a classic move. You're sneaking in, you're pretending to work out. It's like you guys are on two different planes. Like
Yeah.
just pay a membership or just go get your own spot, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that's fine. I see that all the time. What do you think of the real estate market right now? And if I'm a new investor, what's a great place to start?
You know what? If I had that answer, I would have a few projects on the go right now. I am just trying to figure it out.
So you just kind of bought some things and just got in the market, kind of dove in.
I did. And like I said, we had a good few years where things really, but things have been changing year over year so much, especially in our markets. And I mean, I think globally, but especially in our markets, a lot of people are moving to Arizona and Texas and from other places in the country and stuff. So it's really changing. And yeah, like I said, I'm kind of waiting to see what the market does, for myself, but I'm just keeping an eye on it. And like I said, if I had that answer, I'd have a few projects right now. But I'm always spending a lot of time. I still am in touch with my business partner on a weekly basis, and I have a lot of friends who are in that, in the real estate and in investment in arena, and I spend a lot of time talking to them and stuff. And you know how it is. The same thing with training. You can never really learn too much and surround yourself with those kinds of people and just trying to figure it out.
Gotcha, gotcha. What's the best way for people to find you? They want to talk to you about your services.
The best way is probably Instagram or my website. So on Instagram, it's Jonathan Niziol, Niziol. And then my website is jonathannizolofficial.com. And I'm on YouTube and TikTok as well, but I don't use those as much. But those are the best ways to get a hold of me. And yeah, I love even just having conversations, even if I don't, they don't turn into clients. I love doing podcasts like yours where I can connect with people like yourself, obviously, but also, the people afterwards. And it's just nice to have a conversation with somebody who slides in your DMs and is like, hey, that was pretty cool. And then they're like, have you thought about this? And like, oh, wow, I hadn't. That's awesome. Thanks. I learned something new from you today. So by all means, if people have things to share, and like I said, I don't, there's never been a perfect person who's walked this earth, and there never will be. And I definitely do not have it all figured out. The older I get, the more I realize, the less I know.
Well, they say you never know who's listening in this space of podcasting because I'll get emails from people across the world and say something that a guest said or maybe something I said inspired them. So it's really cool. Have you thought about writing a book? Because you
I
got a pretty good
have.
story.
I appreciate you saying that. That is in the works. It's, yeah, it's one of the things it's in the works. And then also, my own podcast is coming down the pipeline as well.
Yeah,
So,
you need to be out there and telling your story, man. You've got a great angle. I mean, just everything you've been through, the modeling. I mean, I'm like a business head. Like I'm thinking, God,
mhm.
you could talk to models about the stress of. I remember when I worked for Nike, I couldn't gain 5 pounds either way. And just thinking of all the things we did to stay in shape, that's a whole mind screw right there. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh man, the
some people
industry.
realize it. You're never gonna make it like that, you know.
Yeah, when I first started 16 years ago and when you were modeling and what it was like back then, I always tell people it was like the Wild West. Like the things that were going on, the standards that we were held to, the way that we were talked to, it was pretty full on. Like it definitely, it still is, a lot of competition as I
Yes.
start to get into the, more mature categories, less people fall out. I mean, when late teens, early 20s, that kind of stuff. There's just a vast market of people you're competing against. But yeah, I'm sure we could spend a whole podcast just sharing stories about
Yeah.
modeling.
All right, give me real quick before we wrap up a personal goal by the end of this fourth quarter and a business goal.
A personal goal, I need to have at least the first half of my book written. And that's something I'm going to achieve. And business wise, I just want to finish the year out strong, whatever that means. You know, I do set my goals and I do set, you know, things for myself. But I'm also really keen on seeing what happens and adapting and stuff too, and not being too focused on the blinders and stuff. So keeping the momentum going, keeping the motivation going, and finish the year out strong and just keep going, because it's been a good 2024 for me. And I want to just keep going. I don't want to get the senioritis, as the the last couple months of senior year, you're just kind of like phoning it in and that kind of stuff.
You
So
wrote the year off already, like, yeah,
yeah.
25.
Yeah, so that's the biggest thing for me is to really just keep motivated, to keep focused, and then somewhere around the Christmas, then I'll relax. But
Yeah, yeah. Well, you just reset, you plan for the next year, it's never ending what you're doing, That's for
absolutely,
sure.
it really isn't.
Well, Jonathan, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. And I really hope you write that book because you can help a lot of people. And
Thanks,
it's
Coach.
obviously does a lot for your career, being a book writer. I have 3 that haven't been finished, and I've been talking about it for years. So I get it. The
Yeah,
procrastination. It's like
yeah,
you write some, you start some, and then it's like life, and then relationships. And next thing you know, you haven't done anything. But my goal is probably 2025 to finish up 1 or 2 of the ones I have. So some interesting stuff I want to share with the world from a different perspective.
I'll be first. I'll be on the first to put it in my Amazon cart when it happens.
I'll let you know for sure, and you definitely let me know. Hang on real quick.